Hi, I'm Pete Wright with LexChat, and I'm joined today by Michael Clemente, our in-house Epson expert and technical guru when it comes to all things printing. Today, we're here to talk about dye sublimation printing, focusing primarily on the Epson SureColor F570 and touching briefly on the SureColor F170. We'll be addressing some of the most commonly asked questions we've received from users over the years that are doing dye sublimation printing. Whether you're just getting started, you've been doing dye sublimation for a while and you're ready to step up your game, or you've already moved up to the F570 and you're looking for tips on best practices, product recommendations, and troubleshooting, we've got you covered. So let's dive in. Michael, how you doing today?
Doing great, Pete. Thank you.
So Michael, what type of customers make sense for the Epson F570?
So the F570 is great for fine art photo print shops, photographers, artists that are looking to get into the Chromolux line of products, really specifically the metal dye sublimation panels that are really popular lately. Also, they're wanting to get into printing of tile and some other unique applications that make sense for the photo market. The other market that makes sense is the apparel market. So I was just in a town in Georgia, and I went into a shop that had nothing but socks that were sublimated. It's the whole entire store. So that's been a big thing is just, ticket items that you can make something around, like golf towels. I've seen that be a big thing as well. So apparel, shirts, if you look at these, gangs of bikers riding down the road, they're all wearing their sublimated shirts with their logos and their sponsors on the back. Companies that are just looking to get into the apparel market and make a mark there. And then also you're looking at like companies that are doing promotional items, even if it's an in-house marketing thing. I've kind of ganged those two things together where they're selling in-house promotional, but they're also selling those as gift items because kind of they're the same thing. If you're doing mouse pads or giveaways, bag tags, everything pretty much that is promotional items that you can use to promote your business. That's another market that I see being a big part of that 570 group.
And you're not limited to flat things either. You could do things like tumblers, coffee mugs. Kind of the sky's the limit. If there's a heat press that works for it, and in some cases people are not even using heat presses, they're using ovens for putting these things on. So
Yeah.
different options. You're not limited to flat, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And then that goes along with the promotional gift market too, the hats and the mugs and that sort of thing.
So I know the F570 is kind of the step up from the F170. Who would use the F170 and who would use the F570, and kind of where are the differences there?
Sure. So the F170 is basically an 8.5 by 11 sheet. 8.5 by 14 is the biggest size you can print on that. So everything that falls within that mark, if you're doing small stuff, those are the type of customers for that type of printer. The F570 opens you up to a 24-inch carriage, but also can do sheet, so you can get both things done, but have a bigger carriage. The 8.5 by 11 and the 570 8.5 by 11 to the 170, you could both do the same types of projects, but when it comes to wider than 8.5 by 11, that's where you're going to get into the 570. The 570 also does come with a really helpful software, Epson Edge Print, and that is a program that comes in the box with the 570 that doesn't come in the box with the 170.
And the F570 is also great if you're doing volume, right? So if you're looking at being able to, instead of doing 4 or 5 of something at a time, you can do dozens and dozens at one time. So you get to kind of speed up your production, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you're printing on a 24-inch wide roll, really the sky's the limit as far as your limitation to length. You can go and cut out all of that, or you can print a length up into your press length, if you will. So you can sublimate all the way up until however long your press is.
So what about the Epson Edge Print software that you mentioned that comes with the Epson F570? What are the benefits of using that, especially compared to the driver that's directly in the printer?
So the driver out of the box for the 170 is fine to use with that printer, and you can print through any file print program. But what the Epson Edge brings is more of a layout component to it, and you can gang up things and print and nest them, so you're wasting less material. You can get more things done efficiently in regards to printing more at one time. So that's the Edge program. You really do have a nice layout, visual aspect of it too. You can see everything that's going to happen before you print. It also, auto inverts your images because when you sublimate, It's got to be reversed, so you can hit that reverse button. It'll transition it for you and reverse it onto the sublimation. And also you have a little bit more control over color options for swapping out colors if you're doing spot color, or even just calling out profiles and to use for those media. You can kind of program that in to the RIP.
So what are some of the challenges that you might find with the Epson Edge print software?
I think the only customer that's going to have a challenge is the Mac user, because it's PC only for the Epson Edge RIP. You really, that's the only thing I can see. I will have some walkthroughs and how-tos coming out on video, so actually customers that are watching this can look forward to seeing those and learn a little bit more about step-by-step how to set things up correctly for color, how to get the proper output, and really just understand the RIP a little bit more.
So they should definitely leave a comment below letting us know the things that they want to see you cover and the things that you specifically want to answer.
Yeah, and I mean, if anybody's getting trapped anywhere in that RIP or in that process and wanting to, develop their process a little bit and see if they're doing it the right way, definitely drop a comment if they have anything that they're concerned about, for sure.
Now, what other tools or items might they need that don't come included in the box?
Well, obviously, when you're sublimating something, you need to obviously print. So you got that covered. But then there's the pressing process. So if you're doing coffee mugs, there are coffee mug specific presses. If you're doing flat shirt and that sort of thing, depends on how big you want to go. Obviously, your width is 24 wide, so you're going to look at a press at least that width if you want to go that big. If you're going to go to something where you're doing panels and you want to do specific sizes, you just have to match the heat press size to what you want to do. Or the table, they use vacuum tables as well, vacuum presses with heat. So you really just can talk to us about that, and we can get you into the right fit, because we do sell heat presses here. Geonite is a well-known name in the industry that we promote very well, and we sell and we support. So definitely just talk to us if you're looking at a heat press. That would be one thing. Some of the other things are just small things like heat gloves. You're dealing with things that are coming off a hot press. You don't want to burn your skin. There's tissue paper for the sublimations. If you're doing Chromolux panels per se, we sell rolls of tissue. We also have craft paper too, to protect things that you can layer things and press them. And heat resistant tape is a huge one, because when you do the panels and you're sublimating, the last thing you want to do is have the print moving while it's sublimating, because that creates a little bit of cloudiness on straight lines. If you're trying to get things, crisp, you want to have the press done. You want to have it taped down nice and easy so it doesn't move while you're sublimating it.
So you mentioned a little bit, you said a little bit about the heat presses there. How do they figure out specifically what heat press they need to get? And I know you kind of touched on it there, but just a little bit more.
So I would definitely say it all depends on the products that you're looking to output, because and also the sizes that you're looking to do. That's going to basically determine where you're going to go. If you're doing continuous 24-inch roll by, the whole entire roll of printing on patterns of shirts, and you're just going to, cut those out and press them individually, then a heat press that size will do. Or if you're going to do them all together, then you need to look at a calendar press, which is a roll-operated press that has a pad that's heated, and it goes through and sublimates the paper to the fabric, and then it rolls and catches up back onto another roll. So that's a calendar press. That's a little bit more expensive, but if you're heavy operation, you're looking to get things done roll to roll, that's the way to go.
Now, one of the most commonly asked questions that I see all the time, a person just got their brand new F170, or maybe their F570 if they're really wanting to start off in the bigger show, is, hey, I just printed my image and it looks super, super faded. Can you explain why it looks faded there?
Yeah. So it's actually a transformational ink. It's not, your print off your printer is not, if you're just getting into sublimation, it will be a shock, because it looks washed out and really bad. But when you sublimate, you're including the pressure, the heat, and your press settings to this polyester. It turns from a liquid form of ink into a gaseous state. And that really sublimates and stains, basically, the polyester that you're sublimating to. So it's going to give you a completely different look. Now, that's a different problem if you get after your sublimation and it looks bad. When you peel that back and you look at the actual product you sublimated, that's a whole different story.
So both machines come with some paper. but there's other paper options out there. And we actually have a really great brand. Can you talk a little bit about the Infuse line of papers that we sell here at LexJet?
So we have 4 options for LexJet Infuse. One is a multi-surface. It's the jack of all trades. It's really, I don't know what I'm going to be sublimating to right away, but I want to buy a paper to have on hand. It can do pretty much any application well. And then you have the apparel line, which is the Infuse apparel, and that's going to have a tack to it. So when you're doing things that are not totally smooth, like socks, for instance, like we talked about, you want to use that apparel because it does have a tack to it. When you press it, it actually creates a stickiness to the paper. When you peel it back, it takes a little bit of force to get it off, and that's just so it doesn't shift while you're doing that. Also, for that apparel, you're doing those slick shirts. 100% polyester is real slick, very hard to grip, so it can slip while you're sublimating if you're not using the tack material. The other one is the Infused textile, and that's going to be more for your trade show type applications where you're doing table throws and fabrics that are draping and silhouetting over a table, or any type of stretch fabric that you're doing for pop graphics, point of purchase graphics. So if you're squeegeeing it into a silicone edge system, that's the type of textile, infused textile you would use.
And then the last one's rigid, right?
The infused rigid, I forgot the most important one. So not the most important, but the most used. I would say the rigid is probably our top seller because we do so much business with the Chromolux sales that's kind of just partnered with that. Hard surfaces, metals, woods, tiles, those are the 3 big ones for the rigid. And really what that is we've dialed up the ink saturations, or dialed them back actually, to a lot of the papers out there that are doing rigids are using an extensive amount of ink to sublimate. We have found on this product specifically engineered the coating so that it doesn't take as much to get a good looking print on it. So the rigid is a very good product for the Chromolux panels and the tiles from Chromolux.
So I come from the inkjet world, as you know. That's kind of my world. And in my world, if I'm printing something, the thing I'm thinking right off the bat is, okay, I need to make sure I have the right ICC profile so that I'm getting the best possible result on the paper for what I'm printing. This is a little bit different. So can you talk to me about how that works and if you need to create a profile or if you're good right out of the box?
Sure. So any surface that you're sublimating is going to be different for each user, right? We have tons of users out there using sublimation. If you're going to use settings that are pre-built, they're usually going to work. In this circumstance with sublimation, for some reason, there's 3 in there that always, like when you choose them, they just work. Now, if you want to get really specific and you're having trouble hitting certain things, you can print out the targets on the same printer, press them. You have to write down your heat, your pressure, and your dwell, how long you put it in there for. Make those things specifically for that product. And it is a process to get that sweet spot down. We have a lot of recommendations for Chromolux specifically, but everything is different in regards to sublimation. So like when you're doing socks or t-shirts and fabrics, those are all going to be different times and pressure settings. Sometimes it does just take the test of, okay, I've got to leave it in there longer. Am I getting any more color out of it if I leave it in there longer, or is it burning the fabric and turning yellow? So there's push and pull, but when you're doing those things, the settings out of the box and the recommendations we give to you should work perfectly.
So what's the difference between the inks that come with these machines and those third-party inks that are out there that you see a lot of people using?
Sure. The Epson ink formulations are specific to the printer, and the formulations that they use, the dithering patterns and how the inks lay down and keep tight, sharp patterns and lines together and make sure that things aren't running together. It's all formulated to work together as a unit. And also the third-party inks out there, a lot of people I've actually heard of retrofitting old Epson machines with third-party inks. It just doesn't end up turning out very, very well in regards to control, because you lose a lot of the control over color and you lose a lot of control over how it's going to work together. And also you lose any warranty that you might have, especially if you're doing that with a new printer. So I just, steering clear of third party and keeping things Epson, keeping things consistent in the process with Epson brand things just makes it easier on the person, not have to go through nightmares like I've heard about.
So you mentioned briefly people converting printers, and I've seen people converting other types of Epson printers into dye sublimation printers, but I know there's all different types of head technologies out there, and I know certain ones are made to work with certain types of inks. Is that something that they really need to be concerned with? Because I know I've seen people do it and say it stopped working or not, it's not happening. Can you explain kind of the differences in those types of head technologies and why, if it works at all, it's a short-lived light?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it this way, the engine of the machine is the print head, and if you put a different grade of oil through the engine, it'll work for a certain amount of time. The viscosity of the ink and those factors that create the ink and make it flow the right way are all formulated for that specific head. So that's why when you're dealing with these printers, it's not really a good idea to go with outside of the brand, the OEM, because you could get different viscosities of ink that can cause more wear and tear on the moving parts inside the print heads.
So let's say you're talking to a person that's got an F170 now, and they're loving the machine, that everything's just humming for them, but they're on the fence. Man, is it time for me to step up to an F570? Now, I know we've talked about some of the benefits, but are there any other factors that might be that, okay, that's definitely something that makes it worth my while to go ahead and step up to F570?
Absolutely. So when you're talking about the F570, all those things that we talked about before in the box, the efficiency of the software, you're getting a roll of 24-inch wide material now, and you're getting more material with a printer, so there's more material to produce with. You're also getting a wider platform to print to, so you can sell bigger products. And as we all know, the small stuff is great, but the big stuff is better because you're selling them at higher profit margins. So really the high profit margin is a main driving force of it. But also, you've got a out-of-the-box 1-year warranty, stackable 5-year warranty with these things, and they're replaceable unit warranties, which are great. When something happens with your printer, as long as you're signed up under that warranty, they're going to replace the printer, as long as you're not using third-party inks too. That's one of those prerequisites. But they're going to send you out a brand new unit the following day, which is awesome.
One of the things that I know just from being in the industry, cut sheet paper costs a lot more than roll paper, because you're basically paying somebody to cut it and then put it in a box versus a roll that's there. So I know we can't get into specifics because every brand's going to be a little bit different, but talk to me a little bit about the cost savings just right there and the ability to use a roll.
Yeah, I mean, usually, like you said, cut sheet's going to be a markup just for that extra component of cutting it down. Anywhere from 20 to 30% more is the average, where you're talking roll savings over cut sheet. So that would be kind of the ballpark.
Michael, thanks for sharing all this great information. Hopefully we've answered some of the common questions and addressed concerns and provided valuable insights for those using Epson printers on their dye sublimation journey. If you have any further questions about these or any other Epson products, feel free to reach out to us at 800-4LEXJET. And for all of your printer and supply needs, check us out on lexjet.com.